Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the elected officials meeting. It is September 21st, 2022, and the time is 9:06 a.m. I'm calling this meeting to order. In attendance are Commissioners Brooks and Duncan. Are there any changes to the agenda? Okay, hearing none. I will start off by acknowledging that this is Barry McHugh's last elected officials meeting and that he will go on to be an elected official in a different venue. And so just want to say thank you for all your service, and we'll miss you here. Then that kind of brings us into item 1.
Right, so happy to, and I'm sure everybody's pretty much aware that Stan Mortensen to my right here was selected to take my position effective, I guess, probably Saturday of next week. Saturday, so anyway, Stan came here, how many years ago?
I came back.
I always lose track.
January of 14.
Yeah, January. So, and he's been a felony prosecutor in my office for all of those years, and does great work. And I know, I'm excited. I think he'll do a great job. And I think that there is a great deal of support for him in the office, which certainly puts him in good stead in terms of continuing the work that we've done over the years. And I'm just excited about him taking over. So you'll all get to know him, obviously, and you can start bugging him with your questions on Saturday morning if you like, but so hold off on Friday afternoon if you can. Yeah. But it's been fun, and I've enjoyed this job tremendously. I've enjoyed working with all of you, and I am looking forward to the next thing. I think it'll be challenging and sort of a great way to wrap up probably my career as a lawyer. Being a judge is going to be a really different role, but I'm excited about it. I'm nervous about it because I want to do a good job, but I think 14 years is a good run, or almost 14 years, and happy to feel like Stan's going to have the great advantage of working with supervisors and staff in the office who are really, really good. And so I think that'll help him to assimilate as easily as possible into the job. So I just wanted to bring Stan and introduce him to anybody that hadn't met him yet. And so more good stuff to come. Thank you.
All right, you bet. Stan, do you want to say anything?
I'm just happy to be here. I greatly appreciate the opportunity that I've been afforded. I'm excited and nervous as well, and so I'm committed to the office in the county. For those of you that don't know, I was a sheriff's deputy for nearly 8 years before I went to law school. And then after law school, I taught at a university and I prosecuted somewhere else. And so I was gone about 5.5 years. And then I came back and I've been here since January 14, and I have every intention of staying here. And that's the reason why I'm doing this. I want some continued consistency and stability in the county and the office, and I'm eager to keep doing what I've been doing and to learn to do the things that I didn't have to do before now. And we have a great office. We're a little short-staffed right now, but the employees we do have are superb, and I'm hoping that'll make my job easy. So thank you.
Well, welcome. All right. Anything else on Stan? Okay. Item 2, emergency plan discussion. We've had a couple discussions here in the past, the most recent one after the last windstorm, and how county operations kind of were shut down for a day due to lack of power and then inability to actually arrive at campus. So that led to some elected officials saying, hey, I think we need to update some emergency plans and figure out. It was a little chaotic, like who do we call, who's making decisions? And so I asked Tiffany to come today because her team is kind of going to head some stuff up. So if you would like to come to a microphone.
Yeah, of course. So I think one of the issues, and this has been the biggest issue for a very long time, especially with the courthouse campus, is that you have a lot of different departments in here that have different elected officials, and there's not one true decision maker on what that's going to look like. So I am more than willing to take direction, but we need direction from the elected officials on who's the decision maker. If the facility does shut down, what does that look like? I mean, like with the sheriff's campus, that's obviously a little more easy. It's the sheriff, right? But with this one, we have all of these commingling of departments. But in speaking with some others, it also sounds like something that you guys are more looking for is a task list, not necessarily a plan. We have a plan, it has everything we need in it, but a task list, and we're willing to help with the facilitation of that. We just need direction on who's gonna be assigned that responsibility. And most importantly, they have to have authority to make decisions. As far as notification processes go, I know a lot of you are familiar with Casey Notify. That's the internal alerting system. And my office does have the authority to send out alerts to departments, letting them know, hey, your office is closed. And we're more than willing to do that. And we can do that from home. We can do that wherever. We just need a call from somebody who has the authority to make that decision. So that's what I put back to the group is who's going to be that person, or how are we going to come to that decision? Because I can make all the plans and all the task lists in the world, but without that authority, it's going to be difficult every single time when we go through these processes of who can do it and who can't. So that's my spiel.
Okay. So if we want to discuss about, typically commissioners are in charge of facilities, but there are 5 elected officials on campus. So I don't know if there's somebody who wants to volunteer. I mean, you guys can volunteer your people if you want. So I don't know. I mean, last time it was pretty much Barry. Barry was here, and so he was communicating with me. Chris and I made the decisions together, but I think it's going to be better just to have that one person. So I guess we can think about it and bring it up again. So Jen, ideas?
Part of it too is, the courts shutting that down. Sometimes I think that's gonna also come getting direction from the Idaho Supreme Court. So that's something to consider, conversation to have. Necessarily wasn't a windstorm, but we had a router go out a few weeks ago at the district court building. And right now we don't necessarily have a backup. We may try to bring that before the board, but situations like that, they still have to continue operating. And that may be a call from either, I think at the time, Judge Christensen, if they could shut the building down completely.
Well, and I think too, when you have that one point of contact, that point of contact has their branch to go out to. So, if let's just say it's you, then you would be in contact with Judge Meyer, then you'd be in contact with, assessor, commissioners, and all that. So we just have to figure out which one of the 5 of us on campus wants to take on that role. So.
And I think there's also going to need to be a discussion on policy too, because we've learned through COVID that a lot of departments have the capability to work from home. So if you're going to tell people they can't come to the facility, are you still going to require them to work from home? And if so, what does that look like? So there's things that we need to, from a policy level, also explore and have a discussion on. And again, we're willing to help facilitate that, but we need people to make the decisions for sure.
Okay. And government moves at a ridiculously slow pace, which is good and bad. On this particular one, I'd like to not move so slow because we have another winter coming. So if we could put this back on, get some of these questions answered, maybe get an email chain going, and have some direction in October at the elected officials meeting, that I think would be a wise idea, since you never know.
If I can make a suggestion, I believe that if for 1 month prosecutor's office took it, and then another month clerk's office took it, and then another month Commissioner Duncan's office took it, and then you don't have a single point of contact, which always creates a single point of failure. More people are familiar with what the duties, and we should probably have a duty book which would go to that elected office every month. And that's where I've seen it be successful.
So my only concern with that is, who is it this month?
Put out a list for the whole year.
Yeah, that might work.
Yeah, put out
I
a
was
list for
even
the whole
thinking
year.
more like 6 months. Prosecutor had it for the first 6 months, clerk had it for the second 6 months. The next 6 months is assessor, the next 6 months commissioner. just a little bit more solid. And honestly, it's the winter. We haven't really had any big deals except from October to really March, I think, are the only ones. So, I don't know, maybe we'll do it 1 year at a time. Okay, October to March, it's gonna be the treasurer's office, and then, so that's a good idea. It's nice to not have it just on one person, but, just wanna make sure that people can go to the list readily and find out who that is, so.
I think also if you do that on some sort of rotating schedule, there needs to be a backup. So if it's my responsibility and I'm gonna be gone out of town not at my desk for any reason, it's a known thing that, while I'm gone, Leslie will be the person, and make sure that information is well known.
Okay.
I agree with what Barry said, because there was one day last year that we closed our office. We closed our office at like 3 o'clock because the snow conditions were worsening and we had staff that were worried about driving home. And in a situation like that, you don't have time to hunt around for 40 minutes looking for someone, because in that 40 minutes, you've defeated the purpose.
Right, so that's a little bit different. I look at that as that's a commissioner thing, like, okay, we're closing campus, everybody go home. Then don't respond to campus, there's been a bigger thing. Because to me, that is elected official level.
Okay.
You guys made that decision for your office, and the commissioners can make it. So that's more, right then and there. I'm thinking more like, I'm getting ready for work and I get a phone call at 7:30 going, you can't get to campus. So, yeah. So I don't want to take that kind of stuff away from the individual elected too. So, any other thoughts, ideas? Bill?
Is this more for a dynamic event that's occurring immediately, or is this more of a chronic event over a period of a couple of days? Because I think that the more immediate need is the more dynamic event that's occurring today. Hey, we need some decision makers, we got a bomb threat here. Is it credible, not credible? Well, it's credible until we deem it not credible, So, and I think it's for the immediate need for a dynamic situation that day, you need to have a chain of command. As far as, hey, the router's out, or we've got this situation over here, I think those you leave to the elected officials. But if there's a dynamic event, that's when you need decision makers to make a decision and say, hey, here's what we're gonna do.
Okay.
So just for follow-up for myself, are you guys saying in October you'll come to me and say what you're wanting the plan to be, and then we can work at implementing that? Or how?
Can you work with us between now and
Oh,
October?
yeah, so what?
To get, right.
Want me
so-
to reach out to each one?
Yeah, if we just start an email chain among the elected officials to just say, okay, what do we think about
These are some
having
possibilities.
somebody- yeah,
So
these
you'd
are
like me
poss-
to develop some possibilities and have you guys come to a decision on that? Okay, I can do
Yes,
that.
thank you. If that is all right with the sheriff, then that would be helpful to us. Okay,
Okay.
all right. Any other thoughts on that? Okay. Chris, are you on the line? I heard somebody join us.
Yes, I'm on the line. I've been on the line. I joined about 5 minutes late. I apologize. I just want to say before you go on to the next item, how much I appreciate and have appreciated Barry's service. And over the years, I think certainly the residents of this county owe him and, of course, his organization a debt of gratitude. And I welcome Stan Mortensen. He's got a challenging time ahead of him, but I'm sure he's up to the task. I congratulate him and look forward, at least for the next few months, in working with him. That's it for me.
Okay, anything on the emergency plan?
No, I think you guys are on the right track. I think the idea, if you're thinking of rotating it, I think it's a good idea.
Okay, great. All right, item 3, hiring practices per policy 120 and open positions funded at 50%. Sylvia, would you join us, please? So I'll handle the second thing first. Open positions funded at 50%. I just want to make sure that everybody understands, just because something is underfunded doesn't mean that it's not open for hire per policy, right? Step 5, or you have to come before the board if you're going to hire above that. I know there's been some confusion, like, well, are they only getting 50% of the pay? Are they only working half of the year? No. They're just underfunded, and then we will reevaluate in April as to see where each individual EO is and if there's any adjustments that need to be made. So questions, comments on that? Okay.
So when I sent out the email about the pay plans and the updates and the schedules, we did have a paragraph that indicated you can still hire those positions that are underfunded, but to monitor your budgets, and that communication would happen with the board in April at least, if not sooner.
I mean, for me, the best thing is we get all our positions filled and we have that problem in April. But we're not going to have that problem in April. So I'm
We're
confident
making some
that-
headway,
Okay, well,
but we won't get 118. We're at, I think, 118. Open
Yeah.
positions, it's better than 134, so.
yes,
And we're
yes,
seeing more
definitely.
applications coming in.
Good.
Which is good.
Good. All right, any questions or comments on that part of it? Okay, and then hiring practices per policy 120. Sylvia and I have kind of started some thoughts on making some changes, and we'll keep everybody in up to date and up to speed. We'll have the conversation about making some changes to policy 120. The one that in particular is an issue right now is hiring practices. Sometimes we come upon these positions where we don't get a lot of applications, or we get a really good applicant and we want to hire them at a higher rate than normal. The issue then becomes if you're causing parity or compression in your organization. This board has done more than probably, the last 3 boards combined in wages, and we decided at, I don't know if it was during budget or at a HR meeting, that if you create parity in your organization, that's on you, and you're going to have to explain to your people why you created this parity situation. So we're not going to be making adjustments because a department head decides to bring somebody in at a higher rate than, they already have people working. So does that kind of cover it?
Yes, and the other thing we had been talking about, as the matrices for all our staff was being developed, one of the things we had talked about, which we need to build into policy, is that if an employee is under a performance improvement plan and the board awards a step increase for that fiscal year, they would not be eligible. Since we don't do a pay for performance type plan, since we don't have that, there was a lot of discussion about, how do we keep someone held back if they're not performing their job. Now, if it was a COLA, of course, they'd be eligible for that. But if it was a step adjustment, that was one of the things we were going to build into the policy.
Yeah, so as these things come together, we'll put it before the elected officials and just say, hey, what are your thoughts on this? Here's the criteria for the steps, and the criteria may end up, somewhere about how we've handled bonuses in the past, and, the performance plan. What is it when they're disciplinary action? So if
Yes.
there's disciplinary action, then that can play into steps going forward. So it's just going to be a work in progress. The other thing that we're working on is there's the temporary overtime policy that's in effect right now, and it actually ends September 30th. We do want to make some of those changes permanent, but some of the changes are going to not be permanent, and we'll bring those forward as well. And it's probably related to the pre-scheduled vacation, and we'll have that conversation again in an HR meeting, and as these things develop, and we can send out emails and stuff too. So any thoughts, questions?
In the scenario, this is Barry McHugh, in the scenario where someone is under a performance improvement plan, they don't get the step, and then, the performance improvement plan works, let's say a couple months down the road, would the board be open to then coming back and saying, look, this employee has really done a good job. We'd like to see the step that he or she missed be put into place. Is that something the board would be amenable to?
Yeah, I mean, well, that can be part of the discussion for sure.
Okay.
Can I ask a question about that as well?
Yes.
I know it doesn't sound like anything's final, it's just, is it if that employee was on a performance plan at any time during that year, or just when the pay raise would have taken effect? Like, how does that
So
work?
that's what we'll have to discuss. That's what we'll have
Great.
to, figure out. So I think it might be fair to be the calendar year because our step would be valid October. So if they were on a performance plan January through October, any of that time. So, I mean, it's just discussions. We can just have these and figure out,
We did do that with the bonuses, the stipends that were given to staff. If anyone was under a performance improvement plan, they were not eligible. And we looked at that fiscal year. But of course, we can design this how we see best fit for our employees and the county.
Yeah, Leslie, this is Chris. I think it's a worthwhile discussion, but I think especially in light of the generous increases, admittedly they were overdue, that we gave people, I am generally not in favor of providing bonuses, the pay raises or the step increase, whatever it is after the fact. The fact of the matter is, if the individual was under a performance plan, they missed that cycle. I think sometimes we get a little bit too accommodating, and I think it's probably the wrong approach, but again, we can take it up later.
Okay, fair enough. Anybody else? Okay. Any other policy 120 related comments? Questions? Okay, well, if that's all we have today, then I will call for public comment. Will? Okay. All right, thank you all for coming, and meeting adjourned 9:29.